All right. So hopefully this audio works out a little bit better than the last one from yesterday. I've got the pop filter a little bit further away from the microphone. I've got the fans down a little bit. It's a cooler night. How many of you guys like that 90 degrees in mid-November the other day, right? I mean, it was like 90 degrees here on Sunday and Monday. Yesterday it was still in the 80s. And I mean, you're talking like what, November 15th and it's 90 degrees, November 16th and it's 90 degrees, right, in Anaheim? That's crazy stuff. All right. So where are we at tonight? Tonight, everybody's kind of chilling. It's about 7:25. Actually, it is 7:25. I don't know why I say about. We're here in the house. Everybody's here. Maria is in the room and she's watching something. I thought it was maybe something on the Hallmark Channel, but it's another show. So you'll probably hear that in the background. These are informal, though. These aren't like professional podcasts or anything like that at this point. It's just me kind of talking to everybody who might want to hear or see, what's going on, or just kind of just get my thoughts out there. So we do have Christmas coming up pretty soon, and I'm sorry if my throat is a little bit raspy. It's a little sore. I've been drinking a lot of coffee with very little creamer. Tried it with eggnog. I do like eggnog. I'm diabetic, so I have to be careful with how much I drink of that. I don't drink any alcohol or anything like that, but just because of the sugar content. But between the eggnog and the coffee, it can also upset my belly a little bit, right? So got to find like some type of soy nog or something like that and hope it doesn't give me any other developments. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody, but soy does things to a guy. And so, over a long period of time. So I don't want to deal with that either. So Christmas is coming, and that's sort of the warning, right? You better watch out. Christmas is coming. So I'll be sharing some Christmas stories and things like that over the next several weeks, including the Magi, right? The wise men from the East, if that's indeed where they came from, and where did they come from? We'll be going over things like that. I even have a few little props, a few little cute props, like this guy right here, right? This is it's an old snow globe from about 20 years ago. I do believe it was from Borders. It may have been from Barnes & Noble, but I believe it was from the Borders in Modesto. That was one of my favorite hangouts. And sadly, Borders ended up closing shop, right, some time ago. If not, they might be doing it now in 2020, given everything that's going on. But one of my favorite things to do, my escape or my getaway, don't want to call it an escape really, but Maria knew like when I went to do things and just have some space or things like that, I would go to Borders and I would get some coffee and I'd sit and I'd read graphic novels, and that was my thing. Maria and I would go to movies together. We like to go to the Galaxy Theater in Riverbank. That was one of our favorite spots. In fact, speaking of movies, I'll show you guys something here. You can kind of see the E on there, right? That stands for Edwards Cinema, right? That was at Metro Point in Costa Mesa. That was a spot of our first date. And if you look at the back, because it is so worn, I had to write it down. That is Gattaca 11/16/97. This little beauty right here stays in my wallet. If I ever have the pleasure of getting mugged or ripped off from my wallet, I will demand the theater ticket. They can take everything else. But I do carry it around with me. Not as good luck, just because I'm a nostalgic person and I enjoy things like that. I enjoy history, as people probably know, and I enjoy things from various eras in history. But that's one of my things. Yeah, and so for those of you up in the Central Valley, you might know the area. But our favorite theater to go to was in Riverbank, and it was a Galaxy Theater there, and that's where I learned about different flavored popcorn toppings, right? My favorite was the chocolate marshmallow. I'd put that on the popcorn. And Maria and I would be there so frequently. I think one year, I know this isn't a lot for some people, but for us, because we were so busy doing other things, that it was a big thing for us. I think we would see 2 to 3 movies a weekend, and we'd go there on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we'd stay all day. And we'd watch one movie, we'd sit there in the theater and we'd eat, we'd buy some food, we'd sit down, we'd eat, we'd go and see another movie. And we'd pay for the ticket. We didn't sneak in. But after a while, and mind you, this was about 20 years ago, after a while, the manager there got to kind of know that when we were there, he was like, hey, just buy the food and don't worry about the tickets. So don't try that now. Don't try that now, especially if there's so few people, you'll get caught. And I don't promote being sneaky or trying to swindle someone out of their money. I don't believe in that at all. But it was basically just a thing. They were like, hey, you guys spend, $50 while you're here on food, just go see the movie. And so we would. That would be our thing, is we'd go see movies. And so sometimes we'd be there for, between eating and watching the films. If we'd see 3 films, we'd be there 8 to 9 hours some days. And we would just be there all day. And that would be our outing. Also, I would really, I think because it is the holiday season, I think I'd like to promote a few things up there, a few places up in that area where we used to go. One of the places in Modesto, I'm not a big fan of Modesto. Most of you will know that. I'm just not a fan. I'm just really not. Sorry. I used to work there. Worked for the city of Modesto. Started out as a temp in the mayor and council's office, working with city manager and the public information officer. Worked in public works for about 4 years. Also worked for the county of Stanislaus in Modesto there. Worked with some wonderful people. I miss the people, not the area. Sorry, guys. There are a few things I miss, though, around wintertime that were really awesome. And I will tell you, one is a restaurant. It's a pizza place called Chefs of New York. If you ever get the chance, it is on Oakdale. You go up Oakdale from the 99, I believe it's Mitchell Road, and it turns into Oakdale Road, and you keep going. And just keep going a little ways, and it'll be on the left-hand side there in this little shopping center. It looks like an old shopping center, Chefs of New York. And I stand by them. We discovered them on New Year's Eve in 2003. We went there because they were the only place open about 9 o'clock at night, because we actually moved into, it was a new apartment that Maria and I were moving into, and we moved in on New Year's Eve of all days. And by the time we were done getting most of our stuff up and in there, most of the places were closed, which sounds a little odd on New Year's Eve, but they were. And so we found that place, and we went in there and got some pizza, and it was really good. It was really good. We've had everything there from like a shrimp pizza of all things to, their hoagies are great. Everything we had there was great. Their menu might have changed by now, and they would get our order wrong sometimes. But I got to be honest with you, even when it was wrong, the food was great. And I'm a creature of habit where I don't like to change it if I like something or I find something that I really enjoy. Sort of like going to the islands and I'll have that Maui burger, right? Because I love the teriyaki and the pineapple. Anyway, it's too late to be talking about all this food. And again, I'll digress this entire video. Just get used to it, please, because it happens. One of the things about Chefs is everything was great at Chefs of New York. I really love that place. And so I do miss that. That's one of the places I miss. So if you ever get a chance, go to Chefs of New York on Oakdale Road in Modesto. You will not regret it. It's great food. In fact, there was one time, they didn't have our order. I don't know if they'd given it away, but I think what it was, now I was working at the Family Partnership Center in Modesto at the time. A wonderful place with great people there, great people. And all of us public servants, helping to serve the community and the folks there. But I had ordered from Chefs of New York, and it became a New Year's Eve tradition for us, or a Christmas Eve tradition. Like we'd order something like that. Well, we were at work on this particular day. And so, but it was before the weekend of Christmas, I do believe, before we were taking off for the week at the county. And we had ordered something. I sent it via fax. Well, their employee had actually apparently just walked off the job. Somebody just decided, I'm done and I'm heading out. So when we got there for our food, we have people coming over. We're at my parents' house, all this stuff going on, and there was no food. So, it was okay. We didn't throw a fit or anything like that. We just said, hey, we'll place our order now. And the manager, and he'd been there for quite a long time. And when we came back, I guess he was just so happy that when we came back in, he claps his hands together and he's wearing these thick glasses. He got this Greek fisherman's cap on, and I used to have one. Even in high school, I had one. I love those things. I was like an old man even then. But anyway, he had a Greek fisherman's cap on and these really, really thick, like thick glasses. They looked like he had like multiple eyes underneath, and I'm not making fun of him. It really did. But he came out with his accent. He was from New York, and he's like, oh, look, Colby and Maria are back. And he really did say it. It was really funny. And like everybody in the restaurant, it wasn't very big. It was a smaller restaurant. And he starts clapping, and other people start clapping. And we're like, oh, okay. But he was so happy that we didn't throw a fit. We didn't get angry. We didn't demand our money back. We were understanding about it. And we love this place. Again, we'd been going there at this point for, it was probably like 6 or 7 years at this point. And it was just our tradition. We would go there at certain times and certain days, and we'd get our food. Excuse me, my throat's still really dry. And Maria made this wonderful cucumber water, but it does have lemon in it. And so the lemon sort of messed up my throat after the coffee. So I am drinking some, it's like, it's a mixture of that with a little bit of Crystal Light fruit punch. So it's a little, A little acidic. Sorry, I don't like drinking on film, but there's really no escaping it, I think, at this point. So anyway, they were thrilled. He's clapping, and he comes in. He puts his hand on our shoulders and stuff like that. I mean, it was just a really cool feeling right around Christmas time, and so they appreciated that. So Chefs of New York, if you ever get the chance, same thing like if you're up by Elk Grove. It was not Original Pete's. Maybe it was Original Pete's Pizza up there. And so if you ever go to Sacramento, it's Gunther's Ice Cream that we swear by. I mean, there are certain places that we just really enjoyed. Gunther's is so good in Sacramento if you ever go up there. And if they're still around, they make ice cream on site there. And their pumpkin ice cream, we would take a an ice chest, like a cooler. We'd fill it with ice, and we'd go up there and we'd buy the ice cream, and we'd pack it in there and bring it home to Modesto. See, that's how much we liked it. And so there are certain places you'll hear me talk about when we went on trips. Monterey for our honeymoon. Gianni's Pizza, I believe it's on Lighthouse. Oh man, that place was so good. The pizza margarita. So you can see we do a lot of pizza when we would go places. But it's really genuinely, really, really awesome. So Christmas, yeah. So Christmas, I used to love to spend Christmas like at Borders. You know, I'd go there, and, you know, in Modesto especially, it is cold. Like I told Indy the other day, it's like colder than a well digger's rear end. You know, she doesn't understand that, but I thought I was joking, but it gets cold up there. And it's not really good for my asthma and the lungs. I mean, I've had pneumonia like 4 times. I skipped it this year, thankfully, but I've had it like 4 times since like 2017, I think. And so, sorry, you'll be hearing Maria's stuff in the background there. Hopefully there are no curse words going on in that show, but yeah, whatever. This isn't made for kids anyway, guys. So going on from there. So Christmas is always, it's my favorite time of the year. Actually, the whole holiday season is. I get nostalgic even around September, October, heading into like Halloween type, and then going through into Thanksgiving. I made a turkey on Sunday, so probably doing ham next week. We'll make like a ham or something like that. I like doing that too. Only a few things that I can make, but those are a few of them, and I enjoy it. So so getting back to Christmas, right? Now, when I found out the stories about the Germans from Russia, like the old German tradition about like Krampus and about Peltzenickel, right? Nicholas of the Pelt, and all these things. I asked my grandmother, and I asked my great uncle and my great aunt about that. Uncle Mark, Aunt Barbara, you know, Aunt Bees, you guys knew her. When I would ask them about that, they would definitely confirm that these things, yeah, they were real. At least they were real traditions. And so, excuse me, in that German community, even when they got to Russia and when they got to South Dakota and North Dakota, when these Germans from Russia migrated over there, they brought these traditions. Now, they stopped the more violent aspects because, as it turns out, what would happen is you would have a little girl from the village or your town, and she would be dressed up like in white lace and things like that, and they call her the Christkindl, right? The Christ child. So she would represent Jesus. And she would have like a little bundle of switches. And people want to know what a switch is. Well, then you didn't have the pleasure of experiencing them growing up, because a switch was basically like a small branch off of a tree, right? And you'd get smacked with it. And those things hurt. They hurt really bad. It was, you'd get swatted with a switch, and you knew, and you remembered. I got it a few times from my grandma Helen, and my grandma Helen was full of love. She embodied forgiveness and love to me and just peace. But man, when myself, my sister, or my cousins riled her up and gave her a hard time, and mind you, this lady was already well into her 50s and 60s at this point. Oh, she'd break out the switch. Whap, man, we remembered and we behaved for a while. So anyway, the Christkindl would have a bundle of switches, right? And now with them would be one of the biggest young men from the village or the town or the neighboring town if need be. And they would be dressed in like pelts, like in animal skins, like a wolf pelt, right? Hence the name Nicholas of the Pelt, right? Peltzenickel, pelts as in pelt, and Nickel as in Nicholas. So they would be dressed up like that, and they would oftentimes, their face would be covered, and they would have antlers, like deer antlers or horns of something like that on there. And they would carry around these heavy chains. And my grandmother said, in her experience anyway, my Uncle Mark and Aunt Bee, they would be like, they would be growling, and they would shake the chain so you could hear them coming. I don't know how big these chains were, but it had to be a big young man or a big boy from the village to be able to carry these things. And so what they would do is they would come in, they'd bang on the door, you know, and the young lady would ask, excuse me, can the Christ child come in, right? And so the parents would be like, yes, come in. And now this is the Catholic tradition. I don't know about the German Lutherans, but the German Catholics did this. Now, when they would come in, they said you would see everybody diving for the mom's apron, hanging on to mom's legs for dear life, not wanting to deal with these two characters here. And so the little girl, the Christ child, would ask if they knew all of their Catholic prayers, and they'd better know them. They'd better know them. If they didn't, we'll get to that. And not only that, then they would ask the parents, have these children been good, good Catholic Germans all year? Have they been good? Have they behaved? If mom and dad said no, there was much wailing from them, as in they're crying, and wailing on them with the switches, right, with the sticks. And so what would happen invariably is the boys mostly, in my grandmother's memory, it was mostly the brothers that they would take, and they would drag them kicking and screaming away from mom, and they'd put them in a sack sometimes, and they'd take them outside a little bit, and then they'd dump them out, They stopped whipping them with the switches in the Dakotas, as far as I know. My great uncle Mark said he didn't experience that. He experienced the holy terror of being torn away from his mom at a young age and put in a sack and dragged out, kicking and screaming. And then after a little while, the big guy would dump them out of the sack. So just, I tell my kids, be grateful that Santa carries a sack of toys instead of carrying a sack of kids and dragging them off. Because nowadays people complain when they don't get what they want. But back then, if you didn't behave, you got the hell beat out of you. So there was a big difference there. And these were the kids, drag them out into the edge of the forest, let them loose, and make them find their way home. And it sounds funny and terrifying at the same time. It's like a prank or a practical joke, but they were quite serious. And it was a scary thing for that community, for those kids. Now, the parents knew and they played along. But this is where we got our family tradition of like the oranges and the walnuts in the stocking. And it was funny because my sister one year, my mom, because she never really saw us eating the oranges, I think was the way the story went, or maybe they couldn't get them. They were like out for some reason that Christmas, like all the stores were sold out. And my sister didn't get an orange in her stocking, and she was really offended. She was like upset. Like it made her sad because she was used to getting that orange, even as an adult, in a stocking. And so with the Germans, they would get like an apple or an orange, like some walnuts, and maybe like a little toy, a little wooden thing or whatever, And so my mom continued that tradition too. And so it's pretty neat. I don't know if I've done it for the girls yet. I know we do something similar. But as far as like the orange and the walnuts, that's definitely a tradition going back a little ways. So anyway, those are some fun times around Christmas that my grandma would tell us about. Oh man, it's funny. So so Christmas is coming, and we are in a pandemic still, guys. Even if I don't want to say anything really bad, but even if we don't agree or believe on everything or believe in everything that we're doing right now, we do know we're stuck sort of in this moment, living in this time and making the best of it. So make sure that, you guys stay safe. Make sure you guys, try not to go into debt, expressing the love and that giving spirit, right, to our children, to our loved ones, and maintain, because this is a really sad time of the year for some people. This is a time of the year where people often consider taking their own lives. Many people do. So if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling down, you can always hit me up. You can always send me a text. You can always send me an email. I will pray for you if you're in the area. I don't know if we can meet for coffee now, but we can do a Zoom or something like that. And just hang, because rather that than somebody, better to express yourself and let somebody know what you're going through. And rely on that support system, because people do care. We live in a world right now where people seem to not care about anything but their own anger and their own self-interests. And even those self-interests are sort of clouded, right? Like we do things that are against our best interests these days. And one of those things is to treat our neighbor poorly and to treat people rudely. That's not, there's no Christ in that, right? And however you choose to celebrate the holidays, being a Christian and an incurable charismatic myself, I believe in Christ, and I don't believe that he was born on December 25th. I believe there's evidence for September, and there is evidence for April. Some people say March, the Annunciation of Mary type of thing. But the two schools of thought are primarily April and September, and we'll get into that at another time. Why it would be either one, and why, and the weather would be so drastically different. Why and how, and those good questions. But it's a day that we've chosen to celebrate. I know there are some people that don't celebrate it at all because it has certain pagan roots and influences, and there's truth to that as well. Excuse me. But with our family, we do it because we celebrate the birth of Christ, and in that, God gave of himself and his only begotten Son to be manifest on this earth so that all of humanity could experience the forgiveness and the propitiation of sin. I like to use the term sin rather than sins because it's to me, it's a plural. It's like a singular form, but it describes the totality of sin, from the beginning to end. It's like the entire thing wrapped in a big present tied off with a bow, right? Speaking of bows, anybody that listens to this in the future, how many of you had grandmas or parents or somebody that would save the bows on the wrapping paper? Every year. Yes, my grandmother Helen would save all the bows, and she'd tell us, and if we messed one up, she got upset. Sorry about the cough. She would get upset. And so that's one thing we had to do is always save the bows for her. So let me see what's next. So Christmas is coming. Oh, I wanted to go over a list. So excuse me while I make a click here. So CBS, I wanted to let everybody know just in case. CBS on Friday the 27th. That's not this Friday, but next Friday. Frosty the Snowman is going to be on at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, Frosty the Snowman on CBS. Also, a show called on the Saturday, the 28th, excuse me, Robbie the Reindeer, Hooves of Fire, with Ben Stiller and Jim Belushi. Not sure about that one, but maybe, right? Robbie the Reindeer, Legend of the Lost Tribe will be on right after that, it looks like, and that would feature also Ben Stiller, Jim Belushi, Hugh Grant, Britney Spears, James Woods, Leah Remini, and Jerry Stiller, and more, it says. I'm reading an article here on CBS Christmas cartoons. So then there's a story of Santa Claus, with Santa Claus voiced by Ed Asner. And it's also got Betty White and Tim Curry. Interesting, right? So anyway, those start next Friday. Excuse me, I have to take a drink. Hold on. So Ed Asner, I think he plays Santa Claus too in, doesn't he play him in Elf, I think, right? So, those are a couple of things that I wanted to let you know that we always, I got to tell you, most of the cartoons, and you guys are probably like me, I either have them in digital format, right, like on Vudu or something, where you've purchased them, or they're available on like Disney Plus, which we have, or we've got the Blu-ray or DVD. Some of us even have the VHS, right? But I will tell you that even though we have them right at our fingertips, basically, right, with a click of the button, we will watch it every time it comes on live TV. I don't know. We just do that. It's almost like a fun tradition, and it reminds us of our childhood, maybe, right? There's that nostalgia that kind of takes root again, right? Better nostalgia than bitterness. Better nostalgia than bitterness, right? So I'd rather be someone that holds on to those romantic ideals and that nostalgia than become bitter. I'm angry enough as it is about certain things. So this is something that's really helpful. So this Christmas, I have been to Walmart once. I wore my mask, of course, and got looked at a few things out there. And Christmas is definitely in full swing. I was able to get some Danish cookies. Hold on. All right. My kids like foxes, so I got the one with the fox on it. Anyway, some Danish cookies. We got a holiday popcorn tin with Buddy the Elf on it. That stuff. And so this is around the time of the year when I also start saying things like, the Jingle Bells, Batman smells, and Indy gets all, what? I don't smell. So these are those fun times, right? Those holidays when everybody seems a little kinder to one another, when we seem like we want to reach out, we want to help people. If you know someone that needs help, do your best to help them. Thanksgiving is a hard time as well. And I know that some of my friends may have a church or a place of business that they work at, and they donate like, turkeys and dinners and things like that. There are schools that do the same. And those are wonderful things. Give to somebody, that expression of love that was given to us by the grace of God in the form of his only begotten Son. That can be alive in us too, as we express that to others without seeking any recompense, without seeking anything in return, without you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. No. Just give with a pure and giving heart, because God loves a cheerful giver, right? Now, a couple other things as we get into this season, right? Again, we'll be doing some actual podcasting regarding like the Magi, regarding some of the Christmas legends, regarding St. Nicholas. I'm sure many of you have heard about St. Nicholas of Myra, right? Actual guy that lived, right, in the 4th century. Yeah. So he was at the Council of Nicaea, right? He slapped the taste out of Arius's mouth, right? Arius, the guy that preached Arianism, that Jesus Christ was not God. He was not co-equal with God. He wasn't one of the Trinity or anything like that. And so St. Nicholas, as the legend goes, and I believe there's probably truth to it, he stood up, went across to where Arius was, and smacked him right in the face. And as a result of his intolerant behavior, St. Nicholas of Myra was actually sort of placed under arrest there. At least he was confined to quarters, and he had to make it right with God. But this is also the same St. Nicholas that when he overheard that a father was going to have to sell his 3 daughters, right? Now, this was a different time. This is 1,700 years ago, that he was going to have to sell his 3 daughters into a life that would not have been so great for them. I'll say that. And then, again, that's for a different podcast. But when St. Nicholas heard that, he was a young man of wealth, and so he would leave little pouches of gold there at the window. And so they were able to not have to, go into the life that they were going to be forced into. And so, again, I'm being vague on purpose because this isn't the time or place for that one. But needless to say that started a tradition. And all of these traditions sort of accumulated over the years. Now, as for a holiday film, if you guys, I don't know how many people like foreign films, but there's a beautiful film called Joyeux Noël. Joyeux Noël, right? It means basically Merry Christmas in French, or Happy Christmas. And what it is it's about the Christmas, right? The Christmas, the Christmas miracle on the Western Front. I gotta brush up on my history a little bit. Some historian I am, right? But anyway, and it's basically about when they all stopped fighting. The Germans, the French, and the English, they all stopped fighting, and they exchanged gifts over the battlefield. They even played football, soccer, right? And they exchanged things like chocolates. The Germans brought out trees with actual candles and lights on them, right? Not the electric ones, but the ones that you would think would burn things down. They put those on there. And it was a miraculous event when everything was peaceful. There was peace on earth in that little bit of hell, that theater of war, where they just stopped. They stopped, and I believe it was in 1914. I'll have to double check the year. But Joyeux Noël, and it's Joyeaux, I think, and then Noel, Noelle, maybe. So anyway, I'll have to put that up and share it with you guys. So it's a really amazing film, and it's in English, it's in German, and it's in French. And so there are subtitles so you can understand what they're saying, but it's a beautiful film. It was made some years ago, about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, maybe about 20 years ago. And it has just a really great cast. And so I think people would appreciate it. In fact, I think the guy that played Baron Zemo in Captain America Civil War is actually the German commandant. And then you've got the young lady that was in, well, she's not as young anymore, but she was the one that was Nicolas Cage's love interest in National Treasure, right? She's in there. She's a German that's in there as well. And so it's a really beautiful movie, and it's got some really sad and poignant parts. But it shows you that even in a time when there's such hostility and such anger and such strife amongst people and between people, that those differences can be overcome when they have some type of unifying belief or philosophy. In this case, at Christmas time, they all came together. And it's just a really sort of a heartwarming but very sobering story, and very real, inspired by real events, and with certain people portraying real characters, but it shows you what it was actually like and how they were singing hymns and things like that. And then, of course, after that, the folks in charge of the war, they couldn't handle that. And that wasn't right. There's no way. We're enemy combatants. Don't fraternize with the enemy. We're not enemies. None of us are. None of us that born on this earth are supposed to be enemies to one another. It's not what it's about. And so sometimes at Christmas, we're reminded of that, right? We're reminded of that peace on earth, right? One of my favorite things in Christmas is that scene where Linus comes out, right? And he's holding his blanket and he's telling Charlie Brown, this is what Christmas is all about. And he quotes the passages in Luke, right? How they were shepherds and they were sore afraid because of the angelic host, right? The heavenly host. And they were proclaiming peace on earth and goodwill toward men, right? And when Linus, there's a part in there when Linus says, fear not, and he tosses his blanket away. Watch it and you'll see it. He tosses his blanket away. He says, fear not. And he's talking about how the angels are talking to the shepherds. But that security blanket he carries around with him, he lets it loose. It's not a coincidence. Charles Schulz knew what he was doing when he created these characters, when he was presenting these themes and these very wonderful, just wonderful feelings and these great times. Excuse me. And so when you watch Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, or Charlie Brown Christmas, with that little sad-looking tree and everything, and how it transforms and somehow miraculously gains needles and branches and whatnot. But look at that part. Look at what Linus. Watch what Linus says. Fear not, and he gets rid of his blanket. These interesting little moments. So, but he says, and he ends it, and he says, that's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. And so it's really beautiful, and it makes me tear up, and I do that more in my old age. I don't know. I don't know if it's just that I'm getting older and more nostalgic and more emotional with that after certain life experiences and things, or if it's just a really touching thing. But if you get a chance, and if you like military films too, Joyeux Noel, Joyeux, and maybe Noel is just Noel. I don't know, but look it up. Really, and if you're interested in it, let me know, and I will send you a link. I have it on Vudu, so it's and I've got it on CD or DVD too. But it's just a really, really great film. So if you're a historian, you're into history or history buff, you like military films, war films, you like Christmas films, this one has all of those in it. There's still that debate on whether Die Hard is a Christmas film or not. Harry Potter's always seem like Christmas films, right? Because they always have like this nice Christmas scene and snow, and the music even lends itself to sort of an ethereal and otherworldly and sort of celebratory type of thing, and it sort of makes you feel warm and fuzzy like Christmas, right? So there are those, and of course there are the other ones like The Grinch, Christmas Story, right? You'll shoot your eye out with a Red Ryder BB gun, with the kid licking the pole. I licked the pole when I was a kid. Charles Wright Elementary School. I was like in the first grade, I think, and I know other people did too. You get the frost, and it's like, it's not really going to happen. It happens, and it hurts. Don't do it. It's stupid, really stupid. Know better and learn from other people's mistake. There's enough existing data that you guys don't have to go through life trying to stick your tongue to a frosted, iced over pole. Just don't do it. So those are some of the good things about Christmas, right? And again, these are times we're reminded, especially I believe it's December 21st, the longest night of the year, right? About those folks that are out there. They live on the street. They don't have a home. The most vulnerable part of our population, next to our kids, the folks that aren't homed at this point, they, regardless of the reason, have compassion on them, not pity, because pity sort of makes us like we're looking down on somebody, but that compassion, the heart of Christ, right? That's what we need. That's what we need. And this is a time to do it. Christ's Mass, right? Christmas. And I like to do things over various days. We actually have a tree that Audrey picked out. It is a teal. It's a teal, like a turquoise light up tree with purple ornaments, and they love it. And it looks actually really nice. But yeah, it's that time of year when sort of everybody seems to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more patient. We seem to care more. We seem to pay attention more. And if we can keep that going all year, it doesn't mean that we have to celebrate the holiday all year, but more like that feeling, right? Where we can reveal and show God's true love and compassion and his caring for a fellow human being. And again, we'll talk about that more on a different show. I always say on a different show. I cover so many different things in these over. It's been about 35 minutes, but still, it's a lot of material, I think. And I'll share some more on the old German Christmases. I've got a book here that I got by a man named Joseph Haidt. and he wrote about the Germans in Russia and how they came over. So there's some interesting traditions in there too. But this was one of my grandma's favorite times of year too. In fact, I'll have to put a picture of her up where she's wearing she's sitting there while everybody else is decorating the tree. She's sitting there and she's got like this Santa hat there, and she's wearing, because she was cold, she actually has like one of the spare tree skirts over her shoulders. So it's pretty comical. We weren't doing it to exploit and make fun of her. She just put that on there. But anyway, this is a time of year that she loved as well. She loved birthdays. One of her favorite songs was "Happy Birthday," and she loved Christmas. And so do I. It's just a very, very, I use the word even transcendent, because it takes us out of our normal day-to-day life, and we experience something like the potential of what we could be on a daily basis. Now I'm getting into another favorite movie of mine, Scrooged, right, with Bill Murray, when he's making that speech about you're going to want it in your life every day, right? Another just funny movie. Love that movie too. So I'll be giving some Christmas recommendations too. Of course, the girls like Home Alone. Indiana loves like the Santa Paws and the Santa Buddies, and stuff like that, because she likes puppies and dogs. But there are quite a few good ones out there, and they all carry sort of a similar message. And so for us, for Christians, we're reminded of the birth of Christ and the wise man, right, from the East and everything like that. So again, we'll be talking about that. But if you have any favorite stories, let me know, because I just love to talk about those things. And I'd like to set it up to where we can do maybe like a conference would be nice. Or we did like some type of a podcast or something where we can talk, and I don't always like just staring into a camera and talking. I can do it for a while. And in fact, if my throat wasn't sore from talking all day at my other job, I probably would be talking for hours and hours, because excuse me, I can do that. It's just with the weather change and the fans on me so much too, my throat dries out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off now, I think. But those are some fun Christmas traditions. Like I said, Maria and I would like to do Chefs in New York. New Year's Eve. I got to say this, though. New Year's Eve, the Sci-Fi Channel I don't know if they still do, because I don't have Sci-Fi right now. I do a lot of things through like the web, right? Like YouTube, and we have like Philo, right? Instead of just regular cable, because we have all the other subscriptions that it's just more like, hey, let's just do this. And so one of the other ones, though, is Sci-Fi used to have a Twilight Zone marathon on New Year's Eve. And I'm not much for partying. You will not see me at parties for the most part. I don't mind certain get-togethers, but I'm not a partier. I don't drink. I don't, not that everybody does, and I'm not saying that I think you're a horrible person if you do. It's just not my thing. And so New Year's Eve, I don't really like fireworks. I'll be honest, between the asthma and my hearing, I had hearing loss as a kid. Not my favorite time of year. So I don't stay up late because I like to see that ball drop and celebrate and do a bunch of loud stuff. I don't do that. It's more like I'm watching my Sci-Fi, my Twilight Zone, right? Like To Serve Man was a great one. Next Stop Willoughby is a really nice one as well. How about one of my favorites is The Howling Man, right? When they have when this guy goes to this castle or whatever in Europe, and there are these monks or these priests or whatever, and they've got what they say is the devil locked up and enchained, and this guy keeps howling. And this is like right before, I think it was before the First World War. So anyway, they've got this guy locked up, right? And then this one guy says, I have to free him. He gets this sort of, he can't believe that they're imprisoning this guy unjustly. And the guy, I don't want to spoil it for you, but spoiler alert. Yeah, he lets the guy out. Next thing you know, there's a world war. And so he spends his life trying to track down the devil and basically lock him up again. And it's called The Howling Man. It's really cool. There are other ones. I can't remember the name of the one with William Shatner when he keeps putting the coin in the devil's mouth or whatever, and it's about his future, and it keeps telling him. And the moral of that story is basically, if you keep waiting on stuff like this instead of actually living your life and making choices and taking those risks, then you're not really living at all, right? So those are some of the more fun ones that I enjoy. So that's another sort of a New Year's Eve tradition. And I sort of get sad around mid-January, going into February, because that holiday season is kind of coming to an end. And you see people sort of reverting to that old person, right? That old character. So yeah, I don't really like that as much. I get kind of bummed out, not depressed, but just kind of bummed out, you know. But this season, I love this time of the year. I love this time of the year. I want to get a house one of these days with different rooms, just so I can have a separate room for each holiday, or for like each season, right? Decorated just like that. That'd be pretty awesome. So, listen, you guys all take care. Remember, there are people there that are. I don't want to say they're not less blessed. They're not even. I wouldn't even say less fortunate, but just maybe going through a tough time through no fault of their own. And let's bear that in mind when we see people. Let's be open, especially at this time of year. Let's be more aware. Let's be more conscious of the Spirit instead of sin conscious, right? Let's be more conscious of the Holy Spirit and His promptings and His guidance, and let's reach out to those people, or at least let's reach back. Reach back when someone reaches out. And if you don't know what to do, it's okay to say, I don't know, and I can't help you, but try to point them in a direction of somebody who can. All right. Indy, you want to say hi? Indy, what are you doing? Anyway, Indy, you can say hi. Hey, say hi. Go over here and wave and say hi. Seriously, you want to say hi? You want to say something?
Do you have any paper?
Do I have any paper? I do. I'll have to find it, though. Check over there on the chair. I think there's some in there, okay? In one of the envelopes, they sent home paper for you guys. So, sorry, one of these days I'm going to get the kids on here to actually talk and visit, so they can say hi to some of their extended family members and friends that we haven't seen in a little while. And so we'll do that. But anyway, I'm going to sign off here in a minute. Indy, do you want to say hi? Come here. You don't want to come here and say hi? No, she's just looking for paper. She's going to do some drawing. So, and then Audrey's, I think, hanging out in her room listening to some music. And so, and of course, Maria's in our room watching some TV. Oh, there she goes. Hi, Maria. And so, I'm going to sign off, guys. But, you know, you all, I won't say be blessed, because that is the Christian version of telling somebody off. In case anyone doesn't know or speak what we would call like Christianese or that type of lingo, I will say, you know what, God bless you all and your families, and may he keep you, and may you, well, he does anyway. He does anyway, but may you come to that realization if you don't already have it, if you're not already there, that we live in an amazing time, even though it's fraught with so many horrible things and actions and attitudes and completely rife with sin. I mean, corruption, right? We can look at it like it's just a horrible thing, but it doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to stay that way. And so remember that, right? Like love conquers all, right? It's never puffed up. It doesn't seek its own, right? But one thing it also never does is it love never fails. So let's go into the season with love and compassion for others. And I might be on again in just a little bit, talking about some comic books and some reviews of comics that I've been reading, or some films. I've tried to get through films like Bloodshot, and I actually fell asleep on it tonight. I don't know if it's a great film or not. I just slept through the whole thing, mostly because I'm tired. But there are a couple of other things that I'll be maybe reviewing or doing some other things. Again, doing some podcasts and going on these various tangents in life. But if you get a chance, Chefs of New York, I know it's in Modesto. Also, if you're in the Merced area, now I grew up in Merced, and here I am. I'm closing again, like these ministers I grew up with, right? I grew up in Merced, and there's a place I used to be on. I want to say like 14th or 15th Street, and it was called La Casita, right, or La Casitas. And it is a place where they sell the best burritos. Oh, my goodness. If they're still open, you should go there. I think Jerry's Drive-In closed down some years ago, but also Pizza Villa in Merced, which is on Loughborough and R Street. I think R. It's been so many years since I lived in Merced. I mean, I left there when I was 19, and I'm going to be 46. So that's what, 27 years? Oh, my goodness. My 30 years is going to be coming up pretty soon. My 30-year reunion at that high school, Merced High. So, which, by the way, our school colors are black and orange. So we always look like we were going to a Halloween party, no matter what sport event you were attending. But have some good memories there, too, of Black Rascal Creek. And, you know, remind me if I don't remember, anybody that sees this, remind me about the events on Black Rascal Creek, because there were some things I experienced, and I don't know if I shared them all yet. Some interesting things that were going on at Black Rascal Creek, right behind Loughborough and maybe it was V Street instead of R. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen a map. Oh, and it looks like Angie. So Pizza Villa closed last year. Oh man, that was a good place. That the guy that ran it, I can't remember his name, but he was an older gentleman when I left Merced. But he was a younger man when my grandmother moved to Merced back in the '60s. He worked at that place, and so he worked there. He ended up, as far as I know, buying it, and then he had it for a long time. And they were, they were a different type of pizza place, but I always really liked their sauce and their Canadian bacon pizza. Oh my goodness, it was so good. It was so good, and we'd have that with pineapple. And so those nostalgic times, right? I lived right there at the end of Loughborough, right near where the Walmart is at this point. And so some good times, some really really scary times there, and some times that I don't, I'm glad I'm not there at this point. But and I'm glad it's growing. I mean, it's my hometown, so that's nice. And with the UC there and everything, I won't say putting perfume on a pig. I think it's wonderful they have a UC there. I just, Merced to me, it was just a place to get out of after a while. So, but they do have some wonderful things there. They really do. And Pizza Villa, I loved. I'm sad if they closed, just because even though I'm not there anymore, you like to see people doing well. And La Casitas, though, right? La Casita or La Casitas. I can't remember if it has the S on it or not, but really, really good burritos. Oh my goodness. The asada burritos, and they were huge, right? And with the fresh tortilla, oh my goodness, that place is really good. It's like down the road from where like the Costco is, I think. And so yeah, I went back to Merced a few times and worked there. I didn't live there again, but yeah, had some good times there growing up too. We used to ride our bikes, my cousins and my sister and I. We'd go down to the comic store, right? I have to tell you one of these days about when I was 14 and I wrecked my bike, broke my finger, and I'm already telling it, but I'll say it enough. But anyway, it was pretty funny too. But I remember we used to go down to the comic store all the time. It was Lino's Comics, and then it was called Manuel's Comics, and then they shut down too under some inauspicious circumstances. Yes, suspicious circumstances, I should say. But that was a place where we would go frequently too and have a lot of fun. And on Bear Creek, we'd break off some of the, and this is probably bad because maybe it was stealing. I don't know. It was public area. And we'd take some of the ones that we could break off the bamboo sticks. And my cousins and I and my sister, we'd ride home on our bikes, almost like we're jousting like knights, right? Holding these bamboo sticks. And we get home, and what we do with the bamboo sticks, we would have sword fights with them. And funny enough, you wouldn't think, now when you hear a bamboo hitting something, bamboo stick, right? You hear it hitting something, it makes like that rattle noise. It doesn't sound like it would hurt. It hurts. God forbid you get a splinter. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So those are some of the fun things we would do. And so and we'll get into some more nostalgic tales. But see, again, Christmas is coming. Everybody better watch out. Be on your best behavior, please. And for no other reason than, just understand that it grieves the Holy Spirit when we don't act as we should and as we ought towards one another. So, and I'll leave you guys at that. I might be on in a little bit. I'm also waiting for a delivery from Amazon Prime. It's a later delivery, but I need well, my vices, like my wife would tell you. I don't have a lot of them other than I like my caffeine, so I like my diet caffeinated sodas. I can't drink the sugar, and I like coffee, and I like fast food. Those are like my three vices, right? Those are the things that I got to watch out for. So anyway, I hope to be on again pretty soon and talk about a few things. Today we're wearing, of course, I wear a shirt underneath most of the time, but Superman, right? Or as they retconned it in DC Comics, they call it the symbol, Kryptonian symbol for hope, right? And like I said, now these three abide: faith, hope, and love. And we're going into the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And in that faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these is love. So love one another and do unto one another as you would have them do unto you. You guys take care. God bless you. And I'll keep you in my prayers. Please keep me and my family in yours as well. And have a very happy, if I don't see you or hear from you, have a very happy and peaceful and blessed holiday season. All right. Bye-bye.